man boarded an airplane and took his seat. As he settled in, he glanced up and saw the most beautiful woman boarding the plane. He soon realized she was heading straight towards his seat. As fate would have it, she took the seat right beside his. Eager to strike up a conversation, he blurted out, "Business trip or pleasure?" She turned, smiled, and said, "Business. I'm going to the annual Nymphomaniacs of America convention in Boston." He swallowed hard. Here was the most gorgeous woman he had ever seen sitting next to him, and she was going to a meeting of nymphomaniacs. Struggling to maintain his composure, he calmly asked, "What's your business at this convention?" "Lecturer," she responded. "I use information that I have learned from my personal experiences to debunk some of the popular myths about sexuality." "Really?" he said. "And what kind of myths are there?" "Well," she explained, "one popular myth is that African-American men are the most well-endowed of all men, when in fact it is the Native American Indian who is most likely to possess that trait. Another popular myth is that Frenchmen are the best lovers, when actually it is men of Mexican descent who are the best. I have also discovered that the lover with absolutely the best stamina is the Southern redneck." Suddenly the woman became a little uncomfortable and blushed. "I'm sorry," she said. "I shouldn't really be discussing all of this with you. I don't even know your name." "Tonto," the man said. "Tonto Gonzalez, but my friends call me Bubba. Last night, I was sitting in a pub when an older woman entered. Although she is older, but she is looking pretty attractive. As I was looking at her, she approached me and said, 'Can you guess my age?' I replied, 'I think you're maybe in your mid-40s. She smiled and said, 'I am 62 years old.' I was shocked. In fact, she wasn't too bad at all, and I couldn't help but think that she probably had a really hot daughter. We drank a couple beers, and she asked, 'Have you ever had a sportsman's double?' I replied, 'What's that?' She said, 'It's a mother and daughter As my mind began to embrace the idea, I wondered what her daughter might look like and said, 'No, I haven't.' After we had a few more drinks, she winked and said, 'Well, tonight's your lucky night, handsome?' She took me to her home. When we enter her house, she shows me her house, which is pretty good. After some talking, she said with a wink, 'Let's do it,' and went towards the stairs and yelled, 'Mom, are you still awake?'
I got it!
A couple were invited to a family masked fancy dress party. The wife got a terrible headache and told her husband to go alone. He at first protested, but she argued and said she was going to take some aspirin and go to bed, so there was no need for him to stay. So the husband got into his costume and away he went. The wife, after an hour's sleep, felt better, and as it is still early, decides to go to the party. As her husband didn't know what her costume was like, she thought it would be interesting to see what her husband was like when she wasn't with him. So she joins the party and soon spotted her husband in his costume, dancing with every woman he could, copping a feel here and a little kiss there. His wife went up to him and starts being rather seductive herself. He soon leaves the women he's with and goes off with her. She let him go as far as he wished, naturally since it was her husband. After more drinks, he whispers in her ear, and they end up going to a car and fooling around on the back seat. Just before unmasking, the wife slips away, goes home, and puts her costume away. She is sitting up reading when her husband comes in, so she asks him what kind of time he had. "Oh, the same old thing. You know I never seem to have a good time without you." Rolling her eyes, she then asks, "Didn't you dance much?" "No, not at all. In fact, me and the guys just went in the spare room and just played poker all evening." "Oh, well, you must have looked really silly playing poker all night in that costume," she says sarcastically. "Well, actually," replies her husband, "I gave my costume to my dad. Apparently he had the time of his life."
I knew it wasn't your husband, but yes!
A bus full of nuns fall off a cliff and they all die. They arrive at the gates of heaven and meet St. Peter. St. Peter says to them, "Sisters, welcome to heaven. In a moment I will let you all through the pearly gates, but before I may do that, I must ask each of you a single question." St. Peter turns to the first nun in the line and asks her, "Sister, have you ever touched a penis?" The sister responds, "Well, there was this one time that I kinda sorta touched one with the tip of my pinky finger." St. Peter says, "All right, sister, now dip the tip of your pinky finger in the holy water and you may be admitted." And she did so. St. Peter now turns to the second nun and says, "Sister, have you ever touched a penis?" "Well, there was this one time that I held one for a moment, All right, sister, now just wash your hands in the holy water and you may be admitted. And she does so. Now at this there is a noise, a jostling in the line. It seems that one nun is trying to cut in front of another. St. Peter sees this and asks the nun, "Sister Susan, what is this? There is no rush." Sister Susan responds, "Well, if I'm going to have to gargle this stuff, I'd rather do it before Sister Mary sticks her ass in it." An elderly man went to the doctor's office to get a double dose of vitamin. The doctor told him that he couldn't allow him a double dose. "Why not?" asked the elderly man. "Because it's not safe," replied the doctor. "But I need it really bad," said the man. "Well, why do you need it so badly?" asked the doctor. The elderly man said, "My girlfriend is coming to town on Friday. My ex-wife will be here on Saturday, and my wife is coming home on Sunday. Can't you see I must have a double dose?" The doctor finally relented, saying, "Okay, I'll give it to you, but you have to come in on Monday morning so that I can check you to see if there are any side effects." On Monday, the elderly man dragged himself in with his arm in a sling. The doctor asked, "What happened to you?" The elderly man said, "No one showed up."
Gross.
One morning, a nun teaching Sunday school was speaking to her class. She asked a question. "When you die and go to heaven, which part of your body goes first?" Susie raised her hand and said, "I think it's your hands." The nun looked at Susie and asked her, "Why do you think it's your hands?" Susie replied, "Because you hold your hands together in front of you when you pray, and God just takes your hands first." The nun said, "Wow, what a wonderful answer, Susie." Little Johnny raised his hand and said, "Sister, I think it's your feet." The nun looked at him with the strangest look on her face. "Now, tell me, Johnny, why do you think it would be your feet?" Little Johnny said, "Well, last night I walked into Mommy and Daddy's bedroom, and I saw that Mommy had her legs straight up in the air, and she was saying, 'Oh God, I'm coming.' I have to admit that if my dad hadn't tied her down, we might have lost her."
Holy. Mum and Dad, Johnny's mum and dad need to lock on the door.
Maria had just gotten married, and being a traditional Italian, she was still a virgin. On her wedding night, staying at her mother's house, she was very nervous. Her mother reassured her, "Don't worry, Maria. Tony's a good man. Go upstairs and he'll take care of you. Meanwhile, I'll be making pasta." So, up she went. When she got upstairs, Tony took off his shirt and exposed his hairy chest. Maria ran downstairs to her mother and says, Mama, Tony's got a big hairy chest." "Don't worry, Maria," says the mother. "All good men have hairy chests. Go upstairs. He'll take good care of you." So, up she went again.
So gross.
When she got up in the bedroom, Tony took off his pants, exposing his hairy legs. Again, Maria ran downstairs to her mother. Mama, Tony took off his pants and he's got hairy legs." "Don't worry, all good men have hairy legs. Tony's a good man. Go upstairs and he'll take good care of you." So,
wrong.
up she went again. When she got there, Tony took off his socks, and on his left foot he was missing 3 toes. When Maria saw this, she ran downstairs. Mama, Tony's got a 1.5 feet." Her mama said, "Stay here and stir the pasta."
Mama's gonna handle this one.
Oh my gosh. Mama is gross.
Elderly couple who were both widowed had been dating for a long time, but the problem is their friends keep pushing like, "Come on, just get married." So they decided to get married. But before tying the knot, they went out to dinner and had a long conversation regarding how their marriage might work. They discussed finances, living arrangements, all the boring stuff. But then, the old dude's face gets real serious, and he leans in, ready to drop the question, "How do you feel about making, love?" Now, the ladies all chill, like, I'd like it infrequently. And the old guy? He sits there in dead silence for a second, then leans in closer, whispers, Just to be clear, is that one word or two?"